Welcome to We Are Women Unapologetically, the podcast that talks about the good, bad, ugly, and awesome. Careers, life transitions, confidence, and everything in between. Because shift happens, but you don't have to do it alone.
Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of We Are Women Unapologetically. My name is Jessica Cumming. And before we get started today, I want to let you know that this season is going to feel different because it is different. It's going to get raw, it's going to get real, and I am going to be pulling back the curtains on not only some of my stories, but also of the people that I'm going to be interviewing this season. I ended Season 1 because I knew that I needed to step back. I needed to live into the clarity that I had been teaching. I needed to pause and I needed to reset. I did that by making 2 separate trips home to Wisconsin. I drove down the same dirt roads that I did as a teenager. I reconnected with family that I hadn't seen in years. I visited old places that have changed, and quite honestly, some that probably never will. One of the moments that really taught me that I needed to slow down came from my Aunt Paula. We were in the car, and she said to me, I had been in a hurry for 40 years, and I'm just not anymore. She said that to me so matter-of-factly, like it was the simplest of truths, but honestly, it stopped me. Because here I am 20 years into my own career, and I'm realizing just how fast time really does move. I'm also realizing that if I don't choose differently, I am going to wake up one day and 20 more years are going to be gone. 20 more years of wondering, why didn't I start sooner? 20 more years of thinking, why didn't I share my story when I had the chance? 20 more years of wondering, did I create the legacy that I've been wanting to? That's what this season is about. Making brave choices and then living into them. Last season, we ended with giving yourself permission. Permission to pivot, but making the decision is only step 1. Now we're going to talk about what happens after. You have already walked away, you've closed the chapter, handed in the resignation letter, ended the relationship. Yep, we're going there too. This episode is about that exact moment, the in-between, the messy middle, the space where you're no longer who you once were, but you are not yet who you're becoming. And maybe for you, it's not going to be about your professional career at all. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe it's empty nest. Maybe it's a diagnosis. And maybe it's just the quiet realization that the life that you built doesn't fit who you want to be anymore. Each episode will give you a tangible step that you can take in practice. And I'm letting you know now that if you skip it, you're going to stay stuck. But if you do it, if you're willing to do the work, you will move forward. That is my promise to you. I am going to help you see your story because this isn't just about me, it's about you. And one last thing, the name of this podcast isn't changing. We Are Women Unapologetically will always be a space to champion women. But here's what surprised me. Men told me they saw themselves in these conversations. They admitted they were in their own transitions. So while the name isn't changing, the invitation is open. If you are here, no matter who you are welcome. So welcome to Season 2, and let's begin. When you finally make the decision, you think that you're going to feel free. And I thought so too. I thought once I closed the door, I would feel instant relief. But instead, I felt stuck. And maybe you've been there too. You leave the job and you think that you would feel light, but instead you feel lost. You end the relationship and instead of peace, you feel panic. We tell ourselves that freedom feels like fireworks, but sometimes that freedom, it feels like fog. Right now, you might believe if I just make the brave choice, everything will get better immediately. But here's what's actually true. Making that decision is only the initiation. Living it, embodying it, rebuilding, that is the actual work. And this in-between, it's not wasted. It is not failure, it's transformation. 50% of American workers are considering a career change, And the average person will have 12 jobs over their lifetime. This in-between space, that is becoming the norm. But most of us were still stuck treating it like it's abnormal. We're treating it like it's something to rush through instead of lean into. So let me ask you, where have you made the choice, but now you're frustrated because you don't feel as free as you thought you would? Think about that while I tell you a little bit about my story. Some of you have heard my layoff story before, but this might shed a little bit of a different light of what I was really going through. The week of layoffs, everyone knew it. You could feel it in the air. Meetings were shifting, priorities were being shuffled, and people were on edge because this wasn't the first time it had happened. But that particular week before, my boss had done something strange. He had asked about my vacation. He not only asked about my vacation dates, but he wrote them down. And that was something he had never once cared about before. And then all of a sudden he did. Then I was asked to add someone else to my calls. I said, yes, I will add her, but we both still have jobs, right? Followed by his nervous laugh, and he quickly ran away. When our regular scheduled one-on-one popped up on my calendar that week, the first thing that I did was check it. Was anyone added? Is there anyone else that's going to be joining the call? I didn't see anyone, and I thought, okay, I'm safe. Then I joined the call, and he said to me, hey, Jessica, we're just waiting for someone from HR to join. And in that moment, I knew. I responded very quickly. I guess that tells me everything I need to know. And just like that, nearly 2 decades worth of work gone in minutes. I put the phone on speaker. I started pacing. My hands were shaking. I was texting my boyfriend, my aunts, old bosses. My body knew what had just happened, but my brain hadn't even had a chance to catch up. I was in disbelief, shock, betrayal, because I had been giving my all to that company, 14 hours a day, weekends, my health. I was so stressed out, I had started to physically lose my hair. And here I was, being let go. When the call ended, I broke down crying. I called my boyfriend. I said, I cannot believe this just happened. But there was one call that I didn't make, that I could not make. And that was to my dad. Because I didn't want him to be disappointed. I wanted to be the daughter who made him proud. And in that moment, I thought, how do I tell him it's over? You know that moment when the chapter suddenly closes and the future is blank. That is exactly what I felt that day. Here's what I learned from that moment. My identity had become so wrapped up in being productive that I forgot who I truly was underneath all that doing. And that rushing back to normal wasn't strength. It was fear. Now, I know that all of you have had that version of that call. It may not have been HR, but maybe it was a doctor's office. Maybe it was the knock on the door with the divorce papers. The manager who told you the promotion was going to someone else. And suddenly, you were thrown in to the in-between. Here's what usually happens. At first, you scramble. You tell yourself you need to fix it, and you need to fix it fast. And then you start applying for jobs you don't want, reaching out to people that you don't actually miss. And you try to make it go away by recreating the old. Sound familiar? That is what I call the false pause. It looks like you're actually taking time to process. But what you're really doing is you are running back to what is familiar. It's when you're job hunting frantically instead of asking, what do I actually want? It's when you jump into the next relationship without processing why the last one even ended. It's motion without direction. It's activity without intention. And if you're honest with yourself right now, are you actually rebuilding, or are you just trying to recreate what you lost? Here's why the in-between feels so unbearable sometimes. It's because we tie our worth to our titles, our roles, our productivity. And so when that is stripped away, it feels like identity loss. In 2024 alone, over 136,000 tech workers were laid off. But behind every number is a person waking up wondering, who am I now? It's not just about the money, it's about the identity. When your identity has been tied to your work for nearly 2 decades, silence doesn't feel like rest. It feels unbearable. I remember one morning, about a week after I was laid off, I woke up and just for a minute before my brain really kicked in, I felt peaceful. My body wasn't tense, my jaw wasn't clenched, and I hadn't realized how long it had truly been since I had felt that way. And quickly after, the guilt set in. Because how could I feel peaceful after I had just lost everything? But that moment taught me something. Sometimes what we think is devastation is actually liberation, even if we're not ready to see it yet. Silence doesn't feel restful at first. It feels terrifying. But silence isn't punishment, it's preparation. It is where you learn to really, truly hear yourself again. So that silence that you're sitting in, that's not emptiness. That is your transformation unfolding. Now I want to talk about the permission that I had to give myself and the permission that I encourage you to give yourself. I had to give myself permission to grieve, not just for the job, but for who I thought I was supposed to be. The biggest lesson in that is that you need to truly understand that your worth is not your output. I also had to give myself permission to not have a plan, because for the first time in decades, I honestly did not know what came next. Third of all, I had to give myself permission to disappoint people. When you stop performing your old identity, some people won't recognize you anymore. They won't reach out to you. I had to learn the difference between being lost and being free to choose. That's the work that people don't tell you about. Learning to be okay with being unknown, even if it's unknown to yourself. So let me shift this for you, because right now you may be believing not knowing means I'm failing. But what if that actually wasn't true? What if not knowing means I am becoming? How do you try to bridge that gap? By allowing yourself to sit in the space long enough for clarity to surface. Because I am telling you right now, clarity does not come when you force it or keep running from it. It comes when you stop performing for everyone else and get honest with yourself. I don't know isn't failure, it's courage. I don't know means that you have stopped pretending. It means you have stopped rushing towards the next thing just because it's expected. And I don't know is the beginning of knowing. Research shows that people who take intentional time during career transitions, even just 30 days, are 40% more likely to find roles aligned with their values. But most of us, we don't take that time. We panic, we rush, we skip the very space where clarity lives. So I want you to stop and ask yourself, what am I pretending to not know right now? What truth have I been avoiding? If you skip this transformation period, the cost is high. Now, you may be saying to me, Jessica, I don't have 30 days. I don't have 2 weeks. I have to do something right away. I'm letting you know, you will repeat patterns. You'll make choices from urgency, not alignment. You will erode trust with yourself. Take the time that you can, but be intentional with that time. Because every time you run back to what's safe, you tell yourself, I can't handle uncertainty. I see this all the time. People who skip this process, who rush back into the familiar, 6 months later, they find themselves in the exact same situation they try to escape from. The same stress, the same misalignment, the same feeling of being trapped. Why? Because they never asked the question that really mattered. What do I actually want? But here's what I know. You can handle uncertainty, and you must. Because this in-between season, it is the workshop to where your transformation is being built. Here's your clarity reset action for the week. Set a timer for 10 minutes today. And if you don't have 10 minutes, set it for 5. But write down one truth you have been avoiding. Don't filter it. Don't justify it. Just write. And then I want you to ask yourself, what would honoring this truth set me free from? That is where your clarity lives. Not in the noise, not in the rushing, in the raw truth that you're willing to admit. So here is the new perspective I want you to carry with you today. You are not stuck. You are in a strategic hold, like a plane that's circling the runway, waiting until it's safe to land. That is not failure. That is wisdom. The uncertainty that you're feeling, it's not weakness. That is wisdom. Your inner voice is finally getting a chance to be heard. So instead of rushing to fill the space, what if you trusted it? What if you let it do its work on you? What if you believed that this transformation period is exactly what you need? Here's the bottom line. This in-between space is not punishment, it's preparation. Clarity ignored turns into years wasted. But clarity honored, that is the beginning of everything. If you want to take a deeper dive, I have created a Clarity in 10 reset. It's a guided 10-minute practice with journaling prompts and breathing resets. You'll find it in the show notes. And for deeper transformation, I will be launching the Courage to Pause soon. It's a 30-day self-guided program with daily practices to step into who you are becoming. If this episode resonated, share it with someone else who is in their own in-between. Download the Clarity in 10 reset in the show notes. When you're ready to join, send me a message about the courage to pause. Because clarity deserves more than a moment. It deserves a practice. You don't have to do this alone. And until next time, stay fierce, stay bold, but most importantly, stay unapologetically you.